Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 4th of July special for 2025. It's on a Friday because that's where the 4th fell. And it's just one day off of Thursday, so we're doing our status chat then. If you will notice, a number right over here, 73. What does that refer to? We'll talk about it in a second. I'll give you a hint. It refers to taxes in some way. And remember, taxation affects the quality of your life because it affects the services you get in a way. And then, of course, it takes money out of your pocket, which in a way affects how you can spend your enjoyable money on things you want versus what other people want to spend your money on. All right, so let's get to it. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you. Thank you. Perhaps you've heard about the Big Bodacious Bill passing. Well, I call it bodacious because it certainly is large. I don't know that it's beautiful or not because I'm not a politician. I don't get to see what's in it. All I do is I hear the left saying grandma's going to be eating cat food again and people are going to be doing it without. And I hear the other side saying, no, we're just cutting the liars, thieves, and cheats out. And I like this side. I don't much like that side, but I don't know which side is telling me the truth. And so I'll be like a duck. I'll wake up in a new world tomorrow. But let's talk about something that they have been speaking on, which of course was the cost of oil going down. All right, here we are. If you've not been with me before, it's been a while since I've used them. We're at oilprice.com because this is what we look at the futures. Why is my mouse doing its little weird thing? There we go. Let's go back up to the top. Where are we going with West Texas Intermediate? Well, it's off. It's down over 1%. A while ago when I recorded the first path through, but we're in the red, and we like the red in our oil futures, providing we're not investing in oil futures, right? Because if you remember that video I recently showed you from the Atlanta Fed, it said what? It said what we humans perceive as inflation is actually made up of two separate things, that inflation by itself is always and perpetually, that's Friedman, Nobel economist, Friedman, saying that inflation is the sole responsibility of the government and their control of the money supply. Print more money and it causes inflation, which kind of bothers me about the Big Bodacious Bill. Sounds like we're spending a whole lot of money in there. Maybe we're spending it in the right spaces and we get a return on the investment. I don't know yet. Don't know what's in it. Don't know. But spending more money that you don't have by printing more money into existence causes inflation. Well, the other part of that equation is the cost of living increases, such as energy and food and those commodities that we do buy. So it's good to see that the price of oil is going down. But what does that do to oil prices in general over a period of time? Where is it in a local frame of reference? Local frame of reference, a year or so, it looks like we're moving in the right direction. From above 80 down here to where we are at 67. That's sort of that local frame, that short view. Well, let's expand it out for 5 years. Well, it was way up here at 120. We certainly don't like that. We remember who was running that. And it's because they were against drilling a war on domestic energy. And it shows bringing the oil prices from below 40, $35 a gallon back in the previous administration, all the way up to a height of over 120. You know that cost us all in the pocketbook. It cost every business, every person, anybody who has to buy anything, it costs them the cost of energy going up. So let's look at this in a big screen, go back to the max. Well, the trend is when a certain group gets in there, they're going to run that price up. Back here, it was over $100 a barrel back in these days. 2014, it got close to the election. Economy wasn't looking good. Prices fell. We were relatively low all during those 4 years. And then suddenly they're back up to where they used to be. So I think you can definitely see that policy has a lot to do with things. And we've talked about our automobile industries in Tennessee. They are affected by it. But who's behind the big EV mandate thing? Well, history teaches us, if we listen to the Chinese Communist Party, they were, because they have a lot of lithium ion salts. They don't have oil. They have lithium ion salts. And so they import oil. They have to pay for that, but they can sell lithium ion salts in the form of batteries, new energy vehicles, that's EVs to us, and solar systems, which are solar panels, but they also involve the batteries. So their interest was to start pushing things that sold more lithium ion salt in the form of those products. And they did. And you can see when it took off, it started back here and it goes back before that. Now let me put up this statement I've showed you before from Chew. Obama's energy secretary, who said it is their intention to get gasoline prices up to European level. There we are in the blue line. Gasoline, we've come down since the peak. So we are doing better here since the end of 2024, kind of hanging in there, but we were lower. Were we not? We have been lower before in gasoline. But if we open it up to this long period, because I can't go all, because I'm not a subscriber here, we see that we had prices lower in gasoline from 2016 to 2020, and it only shot up in these years. If we could go back, like the oil prices, we'll find that gasoline prices were higher back before the first Trump run. Why? Back towards Obama, because they wanted to sell lithium-ion batteries. Now, what's our tax rate? How does where you live have an effect on things other than just the price of energy, right? Cost of oil should be the same out there. West Texas Intermediate, no matter where it goes, it's still the price is where it is, right? So where you live doesn't really affect the crude oil price or the gasoline price, but it can at the pump. So let's look at Tennessee's level that we're sitting at right now. All right, according to Google, you see Google in the top corner. It says, AI says the total state gasoline tax in Tennessee is 27.4 cents. To be honest, I do not know that a county or city can impose a gasoline tax. I believe only the state can impose a gasoline tax, but I'm not sure. I know we have our own sales tax rates, but I don't think we can do gasoline tax. And it says the total state gasoline tax is this. This includes the base gasoline tax of 26 cents a gallon. Boy, that seems really high. That's a quarter a gallon. Is nothing but gasoline tax. But here's that super secret politician tax right here. Whether you're red or you're blue, if you're on camera and somebody's asking you about the gasoline tax in Tennessee and you tell them it's 26 cents a gallon, well, then you're technically not lying to them. But that's not what it costs you per gallon, is it? We get 26 cents a gallon plus this mystery 1.4 cents a gallon plus this 18 cents a gallon, almost 18 and a half cents a gallon. So when a politician talks to you about raising the gas tax and we don't charge that much and blah, 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 they're talking about this. Well, we only use 26. They ignore this other money. Let's compare it, since we're talking about where you live affects the quality of your life and the amount of money you have to live a decent standard of living. Depends on where you live. Let's look over here at this tab. In 2025, July 1st just happened, the California excise tax on gasoline is 61.2%. 61.2%. So why is it that we have Californians fleeing California to come to Tennessee? It's because they're being chased out by their pocketbook. What's Tennessee? Less than half of that. Tennessee's gasoline tax at 26 cents, or even if we add it to this right here, at 27 cents a gallon, that's still less than half of what California's charging. Or rephrase it, California charges twice as much money for gas. Plus, we still have the lower cost, or the same associated cost of 18. That is here. I use the word lower. It's below here at 18.4, the same federal tax. So we're both stuck with it, but the state alone charges 61.2%. But here, look what they can also do in California. State and local tax averages 2.25%. Then it says state underground storage fee, 2 cents per gallon. Are you getting the idea? They're pulling sort of, where does Tennessee get this sneaky idea of charging 1.4 cents in a sneaky, secret, hidden gasoline fee? We're paying 1.4 cents. What does California do? Well, they're paying the same 18% plus 2.2 plus 2 cents, right? And then we come down here, let's see what else they're paying for in other means. The low carbon fuel standards estimate total cost of compliance is 5 to 8 cents a gallon on top of that. Now we're looking at cap and trade. Do you remember what cap and trade was? Well, I got a slide for it too, but that's adding another $1 a gallon, another $1 a gallon for that. So let's look what cap and trade is right there. Cap and trade is a market-based system used to control pollution by setting the cap on total emissions and then allowing companies to trade permits, allowances. In other words, the government is taxing you on something that doesn't really even exist. They're making up a new thing to tax you on. They're not taxing you on the amount of gasoline you have. They're not taxing you on the amount of corn you produce. They're not taxing you on the amount of revenue you generate from the sales of a business or the capital gains. They're just making something up and charging you for carbon dioxide by saying we're going to put a limit on you and then we'll still let you pollute, produce the same much. You just have to pay for it. We're just going to get a little penalty for it. That's some of that Al Gore stuff. Well, right there it is. Cap and trade. It's a way to reduce pollution. Well, carbon dioxide is not pollution. Well, cap and trade supported the new energy vehicles and the solar panels and the solar power and the alternative fuels and everything to go with it. The new energy vehicles and battery operated everything. Because remember what Chu said, they wanted gasoline prices high so they could sell their electric stuff. We just haven't been building reactors or anything to feed them with. That's our problem. Now, with that kind of money, we would expect that Tennessee would have more debt than, say, California, because we don't bring in as much money. We're not taxing you on your income nearly to the rate. And this is from all sources, right? Our general tax burden is considered significantly lower than other states. But let's see what our debt is. Our debt says Tennessee households face a significant amount of debt, with per capita household in debt at $51,000, according to Think Tennessee. I don't know who these are. I think that's a leftist think tank. But it's still saying we have $51,000. We'll take them at their word. Tennessee state government has one of the lowest debt per capita in the nation, with only $893 per person, according to that same think tank. Sounds like they want to have some more debt, prove some more money is what that sounds like to me. At the bottom of it is Wyoming. It's a very sparsely populated state. Large but sparsely populated. Idaho, kind of sort of the way. Vermont is low despite being a fairly small state. It does have a number of peoples in it. Montana, South Dakota, and as we go up our line, what are states that have the most debt? Well, look there at Mississippi, not that bad at 14.68. Go on up. Alabama, where you stop me when you see Tennessee. Tennessee says it has 44.27. How can we have that much debt if we have a balanced budget? I want you to hold that question in your mind. We'll probably get an answer here in just a second. But how can Tennessee, the state, have 44.27 when the state itself has a balanced budget amendment that goes back as far as I can think? So they can't spend more money than they bring in. We run surpluses. Now let's go see where California is. Massachusetts, they're a big blue spending state. Washington, big blue spending. Pennsylvania, Florida, Illinois, Texas, New York, and California at the top of it at 558.68. But there's your answer, state and local government debt. All right, let's look at it from this standpoint. Let's talk about where you live still making a big difference in the quality of your life. These are Tennessee counties. Now, we still pay based upon $100, but I think that's because the state law says so. It doesn't affect what your assessment is, and it doesn't affect what your rate is. It just says, oh, you'll be done per $100 of assessed value. But we still have plenty of people coming from California and other places to Davidson County, so they're still growing. So let's go down and find Davidson, because they start with a D, alphabetical. The median house price is $354. The average tax then associated with it, or the tax associated, is going to be $232 or $2,000 per home, and it's an effective rate of 0.63% of the value of the house I'm looking at. See right there, average effective property tax rate is 63 or 0.63. That is of the assessed value. Let's go down to Rutherford County, because we're one of the most beautiful places you might want to live. Rutherford County, it's 305 median house, 1654 instead of that 2202 or whatever it was, and our effective tax rate is still lower at 0.54. Now you can do the percentage. Those look kind of small between 5.4 and Davidson up here. Right there at 6.3 versus 5.4. Rutherford County wins. I'm declaring Rutherford County the property tax winner. Not only is our rate lower, our tax bill is lower. All right, I'm liking that. What do we have next? Well, let's look at the 30-year mortgages, because that was something else they were crowing about this year. It's from our friends at Mortgage News Daily. And we see that, well, it's pretty well much kind of market noise at this point in time. What do we see, though? If you can't ignore politics. We've got the Fed, who is made up mostly of Democrats. The chairman is a Democrat. We just saw Bostic of the Atlanta Fed get caught for insider trading. He didn't lose his job. He didn't go to jail. Nothing happened to him. He's still there. He's still on the Fed. Now, what we see with Jerome Powell said that, we weren't going to lower inflation. We weren't going to the cost of money was not going to come down until we got inflation below 2%. And yet, pre-election, they did. By around November, they started in that last quarter, they started dropping the rates. And yet we saw rates go up during that time frame, didn't we? And people say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would our mortgage rates go up when the Fed is cutting the rate? Well, you'll have to ask Jerome Powell, who said he wasn't going to cut the rate. The committee wasn't going to cut the rate until they got around 2% on the inflation. But election came and they cut it a full percentage point. Now we're close to 2% and they haven't cut it yet. Higher for longer. And right where are we now? It's still seeing fluctuation, but not greatly, not terrible, not a lot of change. So that looks pretty good. Look at populations. Let's look at Davidson County tops the 2024 list of Tennessee's fastest growing counties. So, hey, Davidson County is growing, so we ought to be thinking about maybe moving to Davidson County. That might be a great thing to do. You know, nightlife ain't no good life, but it's my life. We got the woohoo girls and the congested traffic and all the special events that come in there and make it where you can't move downtown. And you keep up with them. You can keep up with the draft. I think NFL draft or something was down there. The Predators got a lot of exciting things. But all that stuff costs money. All that stuff costs money, and all that construction costs money, and the houses. So compare them to Rutherford County. Davidson County says they were number one, 2024. We're not finished with 2025. We don't know yet, and they topped it with 10,413. Davidson County, but it's a much bigger county. Here we are at Rutherford County with 7,347. But you see how our growth is. We're having these areas, this dark green area. This is more than 2,500. We're kind of in that ring around Davidson County. A lot of people who love Nashville are now in a stage of life or a desire in life to move out of Davidson County into not too far from home, which would be the abutting counties right here. Rutherford, I know people in Rutherford County that are selling out because prices have gone up high. They're selling their homes and moving further out in their area somewhere. Maybe they're coming down here by a lake or going up toward lakes up here, right? So people don't have the same needs everywhere they're at. But Rutherford County is 7,347. What percentage of the population do you think that 7,000 actually is? Is this by raw number? Yes, not by percent of population. Because here's something I want you to notice. An adjustment to net international migration estimates helped push Tennessee's capital, Davidson County, blue Davidson County, to beat Rutherford County the first time in 10 years. Well, actually 9, but you get the idea. It took them 10 years just to say that Nashville was growing more than Rutherford County was growing. So if you were looking perhaps at buying a home, and you know, I'm not going to live where I live forever. It's a big place and I'm having trouble keeping up with it. Eventually I might want to sell it all out and move to a tiny little house somewhere down on a lake and play on the water. Or up in the mountains somewhere, and then look downhill at all those people that have to go into town to buy food and groceries where I'm amply stocked up here in my little cabin, right? We move, we have different, but I want to get something for the property that I have. So if you always have to think about the future when you buy a house today, right? Where's it going to be? Would you want to buy a house right before a landfill goes in? Probably not. But if you were building a house and had a house out there where a landfill was, and you knew it was going to get closed down, and they closed her down, and you might get a springboard effect on it. So there's a lot of factors that go into the value of a house, but population and desire are among the top ones. It's supply and demand. So we see that Davidson County beat us out, but Rutherford County still had a very respectable showing. And for the first time, it was only these estimates that got Davidson County to beat Rutherford County. Well, let's look another thing here from the Boyd Center. This is in Knoxville, UT, right? Here we go. Randy Boyd Center, population projection. Now, these are projections. These are not assurances. And let me see if I can remember which one I want to get. Now, if we go down to Davidson County, let's see what Davidson County is projected to do. Well, Davidson County was a little bit uneven, a little bit harder to predict. And then we had a decrease here. We had a net loss in 2021. Davidson County actually lost people. Now they caught them back up pretty quick over here. So where were we before? Was it 716? We have to come over here to 721 and 24. So it's 2024 versus 2020. So it took 4 years to recover the population loss from the flight, from the exodus. And you remember what happened during the exodus? We had blue city mandates and cut downs, but we still let people go out and demonstrate, but you couldn't go to work, that kind of stuff. People left. Look at the population, very erratic. It was about 4,500 here, a little more 45 and 22, and it shot up to 7,000. Then it decreased, and it's back up, and now we're here. And over a period of time, we're going to go down to almost no growth by 2070 of 4,000 people. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a county of that magnitude having 4,000 people net migration into it? That's pitiful. Pitiful in my estimation. That's a technical term from a guy on the internet. I think it's pitiful. Pitiful, 4,000 people. Now, that's a long ways away. A lot can happen between now and then. But we do see the trend is going down, that their growth is going to go down. Let's go look at this map. Davis and Nashville is at 0.7%. Rate of 1 year population change. 1 year percent. Now, we saw they had most numbers due to that fudging of the numbers due to international. But let's go look at Rutherford County, right below it. Right below one of the rings where people are moving to, because a lot of times people don't want to move too far from home. If they may not want to leave Davidson County, they just may be getting priced out, or maybe their home sold for so much that they want to buy something further out, a little less traffic, where they're going to go, not too far from home. Look at Rutherford County's 1 year, 1.6%. So Rutherford County, 1.6% in growth compared to in 1 year, compared to the 0.7% in Davidson County. It shows you, to me, that looks like Rutherford County wins. Ding, 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 Rutherford County wins. Let's look over here on this run. All right, we're going steadily up. We're going steadily up. All right, when Davidson County and all their restrictive and you can't go and you can't work and all that kind of stuff, and we're the boss, they saw a drop. Cost them 4 years in growth to catch up to that same population. Did we? No, we just kept on going up. We're like the Grateful Dead song. We're trucking like a doo-wah-din, knocked down like a bowling pin. But we are looking to kind of level out, kind of cut the amount of growth that we're going to have between now and 10 years from now. So if you're moving to Rutherford County and you think, well, we got a lot of traffic. Well, according to the projection, we're going to flatten out and be fairly steady, fairly reliable, fairly steady right there in that regard. Let me go ahead and take myself out so you can get a good picture of it. Pretty well much regular and as steady as she does. Again, 1.6, twice as much as Davidson County, looking pretty good. Let's look at something else. Let's look at market data. All right. Well, where are we at? We're at Rutherford County. I want you to remember this number here. Months of supply, 3.69. That's not a lot. We need to get around 6 months of supply before we start to get really all panicky about having too much inventory, but we're only at 3.69. It does see a pretty good jump because between 307 and 369, that is a pretty large percentage jump. But now let's go back and go see what Davidson County has. And they're a full percentage point higher, aren't they? At 4.84. Now 4.16 to 4.84 is maybe a lower percentage, but you see that even back then they had more supply. So what is that telling us? Again, I'm declaring Rutherford County a winner. I'm declaring Rutherford County a winner because we have even less supply and we have twice the growth expected. We have lower inventory. So if I was going to buy a house and was kind of afraid that, maybe I'm not going to stay 10 years. Maybe I'm going to move after 5, and I want to make sure, I want to believe in my heart that my investment is going to be more in the future, knowing that there is absolutely no guarantee of it. What are my best bets? What are my best guesses? Because that's all it is. It's a guess. And we're using market data and market information, and no one can tell you. I can't tell you. But I do believe I have myself confidence that Rutherford County is growing faster by population and with the lower months of supply. To me, it looks like I would rather live in Rutherford County because we got lower taxes. Our burdens are less. And I would rather live in Tennessee, even if it's Davidson County. I'd rather live in Davidson County than any place in California. God bless you, California. I love you, but look at your tax structure. You are taxing everybody absolutely to death, and that just makes wages have to go up to keep up with it, which raises the cost of everything. And you get in that spiral, that upward spiral where the people's quality of life goes down because nobody has any money to do anything. It costs $8 a gallon for gas or whatever it might be, if that's the direction they want to go to compete with Europe so that they can sell more electric vehicles to make perhaps some donors happy. I don't know. Just know I'd rather live in Rutherford County than in Davidson County, and in Tennessee than California. And where you live, where you choose to live, will affect the odds. Maybe something bad happens that we don't see that comes down the road, and none of this comes true. But these are at least our projections. And that's all they are, projections, not guarantees. And I don't pretend to be a professional guesser. I'm just showing you what I can see. So let's get our numbers and be done. This is long. This is going to be a 30-minute show as it is. Hello, I'm Dale Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Well, let's get these numbers done because this went twice as long as I was hoping for. I was hoping it would go about 15, but it's been longer than that. Well, last week, 626, 27,780 in the opportunities. That was up over the previous period. 4716 in the under contract still showing. That was up over the previous period. And the integer ratio between them remained unchanged at 17%. This week we have 7 of 7, 4, 25. We have 27,680, which is a little bit of a decrease over the previous period. And 45,68 were the under contract still showing. They too came down, and the ratio remains solidly at 17%. So that's what we got for this week. Wishing y'all a happy Independence Day. And of course, oh, what is this right here? The 73. Well, you know, I have a little coffee company, right? So we were talking about taxes earlier. Go look up what year the Boston Tea Party was, and that was over what? A 2-cent tax on tea? All righty. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.